Cool. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining. This is our Unshakable Facebook ads webinar going from random to repeatable results. I'm really excited about this webinar. Facebook is a really important part of the activation for our clients. And if you're a Facebook marketer, you might resonate with the fact that it's been really hard on Facebook recently. Algorithm changes, audiences that used to work no longer work, and people just aren't getting consistent results. And we wanted to address that directly on this webinar. So what I'm going to be doing the next 25 minutes is I want to show you everything I know about structuring a Facebook campaign such that you can get consistent results every single time. And at the end, I want to share with you how Personaliz can speed up that process. So my name is Leighton Faust. I am the CEO of Spatial, and I am joined here by Jimmy Chase, who is our head of marketing design. Welcome, Jimmy.
Hey, everybody.
Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, there is a Q&A down there in the bottom. Go ahead and drop your questions into the Q&A, and we will hit that at the end. Sweet. So where did this webinar come from? So we have over 500 different clients, retail, consumer segmentation, and commercial real estate. And what we found across our clients when talking about Facebook specifically is that 80% of our clients were dealing with unpredictable results from their Facebook campaigns, whereas 20% were like, yeah, our campaigns are pretty predictable. We're not putting a lot of creative effort into those. We know exactly what we're going to get back from those campaigns, and it's a really good investment. And that was a little bit mind-boggling to me. And my first hypothesis was that, oh, it has to do with the industry. Maybe it's restaurants that are getting the results. Maybe it's retailers that were getting these results. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the common pattern because we had agencies getting predictable results, restaurants, and individual retailers. So what was the commonality between our 20% that were getting predictable results and our 80% that weren't? And what we found was something that was pretty surprising to us. They all aligned pretty much on one singular ad structure for a campaign, and they had some different philosophies and principles. They were just thinking about Facebook totally differently, specifically three things that they were thinking about differently. I'm going to share with you guys those three things and the structure to activate on those philosophies in this webinar. So here's our agenda. We're going to be talking about the Unshakable ads framework. We'll talk about the problem, three hot principles, and then we will talk about how to activate that campaign structure in Facebook. And at the end, I want to show you how Personaliz can speed up that process. So what's the problem here? Facebook has become increasingly less reliable. And you might feel like, man, I miss the old days before the iOS updates where we could actually we could trust the tracking that was going on in Facebook or our audiences used to work. Or you might feel like you're constantly coming up with new campaigns and you think one's going to be a winner and it is just an absolute dud. One you think is going to be a loser and it works. And the results are totally all over the place. It's like playing those carnival games and you're trying to shoot at a moving target. Or you might feel like every single campaign, you got to put a lot of effort into it. And then you got to start over every single time again. I had a little sand pile when I was a kid, and we had the Hickman boys would always come over to my sand pile and just smash my sand castles. And that would just crush my heart because, like, oh, I got to start all over again. He ended up becoming my best man at my wedding. I was the best man at him. So everything worked out fine. But that's exactly how campaigns feel when they're going really well, then all of a sudden something happens and the CPM goes up or the click-through rate drops. What's going on there? We can structure campaigns so that never has to happen again, and you don't have to consistently be coming up with new creative and dealing with that creative expense. Okay, so what are the three principles that these 20% of the companies that work with us know that the 80% don't? Principle number one is they understand Facebook's business model, and you won't get good results on Facebook consistently until you understand how Facebook makes money. So I want to do something for just a second. If you guys have your cell phone nearby, go ahead and pick that up. And you're probably on your cell phone anyways. Go to Instagram or Facebook, and I want you to pull it up. And then I want you to scroll until you see your first ad. I just got mine really quickly. And then when you see your first ad, I want you to look at how many views that ad got or how much engagements that ad got. So I got one right here. This is my first ad. And this ad has 5,500 and 500,559 views. That's a lot. So this ad's getting a ton of engagement. Now, if you were to scroll for 15 minutes just on a doom scroll, if you look at the ads that are at the bottom of your feed, those ads are getting very few engagements. Why is that? It's the way that Facebook's structured to make money. Facebook is not designed to make you money. Facebook is designed to make Facebook money. And how do they do that? Two things. They want to provide an engaging user experience to keep people back on the platform. The whole thing is supply and monetizing those eyeballs. And then the second thing is those ads need to retain attention. So if it keeps people on Facebook, that is good. And Facebook is going to promote that. Have you ever seen someone share a baby on Facebook or share that they just got married? That's going up to the top of your feed. Why? Because those posts get engaged with a lot. The same thing is true with ads. The more the ad gets engagement, the cheaper it's going to be, the higher at the top of the feed it's going to be. So what does that mean for us as marketers? We need to connect the offer to the audience so that they engage with it as quickly as possible. Essentially, as soon as you put that ad out there, it is a time clock on when does Facebook see high engagement with this ad, and will they treat it as a high engagement ad? Here's an example. Let's say you come up with a great ad for your hair and beauty brand, and then you put it to a totally broad audience, no targeting. So audience number one is boomers, and they don't engage with your ad. Okay, so we just got demoted a little bit in the feed. Audience number two, they happen to be moms on Facebook. They're not interested in what you're selling. Audience number three is your winner. Those are young professionals, and they're definitely engaging, but guess what? It's too late because we did not guide the algorithm to get to audience number three first. We have a low engagement ad and we're going to get demoted in the feed. The idea here is to switch that. So you get to the first audience, the young professionals first. Facebook deems it as a highly engaged ad, and hopefully that audience is broad enough where you have room to grow within that audience. It's kind of like, and this is top of mind because I've got a toddler. It's kind of like when you have a kid and then you just put them on a bike. Do you, when they're on the bicycle, do you just let go as soon as they're there? What happens? They just go straight on the pavement. No, you move them in their direction and you get some momentum. Once they're going in that momentum in that direction, then they have a lot of success. The same thing is true with the Facebook algorithm. Facebook has a machine learning algorithm. What are you teaching that algorithm? So people that know what they're doing are seeding the algorithm so they get the audiences that have the great engagement right off the bat so they can have highly engaged ads. Okay, that's number one. Hot principle number two is you want to be a farmer and not a hunter. So a hunter goes out, has a big kill, brings the kill back. Everyone gathers around the fire. He is the hero for the night. Everybody's pumped, but the hunter doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. Whereas the farmer, he understands his soil. He understands where he's planting his seeds. He knows specifically if you change the soil in this way, this is how it affects the seeds. And little by little, he is growing and he is reinvesting the seeds from every harvest to expand. This is how the farmer grows an empire and why the hunter still has to live in a cave. So let's look at the farmer versus the hunter's philosophy and how they approach Facebook. So the hunter is flashy and he's chasing new creatives and new trends. This costs a little bit more, but he might have a big win with one of his creatives. Whereas the farmer is very basic. He knows how to measure the components that drive success, which is header, subtext, and then the creative imagery. The hunter is impatient and changes strategies as soon as that person sees something going down. Whereas the farmer is very patient. The farmer knows how to see the algorithm. And when he sees his click-through rate going down, he doesn't worry. He doesn't change anything. Because remember, Facebook has a machine learning algorithm. This is an opportunity for that algorithm to learn it did something wrong. And the next day, it will ideally change that. And then you have a smarter audience on the other end of that. That's almost like if you were to cut that audience, it's like having an employee that performs badly one day, learns a lesson, you fire that employee and bring in somebody that doesn't know and hasn't learned that lesson. You want to seed the algorithm and be patient with it. The hunter's number one philosophy and metric that they're going after is ROAS, return on ad spend. Whereas the farmer, the metric he cares about is profit. What's actually happening in my bank account? The time frame that the hunter cares about is right now. The time frame that the farmer cares about is the future. He's planning for the future. The focus that the hunter has is on big wins. The focus that the farmer has is on compound interest. So that's a good segue into our third hot principle, which is nailing campaign economics and then understanding the profit as it hits your bank and understanding lifetime value and then compound interest is going to really improve this part of it. This was a little bit mind-blowing to me. Let's look at the hunter's economics when he is activating a campaign and what he cares about. So the hunter, let's say you ran a campaign and his average order value is $60. The CPA on that, cost per acquisition, is $30. What is his ROAS? 60 divided by 32. He doubles his money. He's the huge winner, right? You gave him $1, Facebook gives you $2. Well, let's look a little bit deeper at what's actually happening in the bank account. The cost of goods to serve that customer was $18. His overhead is $10 because he has to redistribute the amount he spent on creating the creative and imagery for that campaign across all of his sales. And so when you add the 18 and the 10 to the 30, you get the total cost of $58. And you find that even though ROAS was high, that hunter only makes 3% profit on that. Now, that's not a huge problem. You know, you could run on 3% profit, but the issue is the hunter is not looking towards the future of what those customers are actually worth. He's only looking at them as a conversion right now. What if he were to look at the future focus? Well, he doesn't know when those people are going to return, so he can't plan for that. He doesn't know how frequently they come back, and he doesn't know the lifetime value of the customer. What if he knew that those people would return in 90 days, that the average frequency for purchasing from that brand is 2.5 times, and the lifetime value of that customer is 150? He could plan a lot better into the future and use compound interest. Let's now look at the farmer and how he thinks about this. So here's the farmer's economics. Average order value is less, $54. CPA is the same. His ROAS is worse than the hunter. But let's look at how this hits the bank account. Cost of good is the same, but he doesn't have the creative overhead because he set one campaign, one structure in the beginning, and he is patient with it and he is letting it run throughout the year. Okay, so let's work for him. So his total cost is less. It's $48. 54.5 divided by 48, and he gets a profit of 13%. Now, it's what he does with that profit that actually matters the most, not just that he's more profitable right off the bat. It's because he knows his future focus. He knows that those people are coming back in 90 days because he can average that out by just looking at his customer data. He knows that they purchased 2.5 times on average and that they have an LTV of $150 in total. Now he can start planning for future cash flows and expanding what he is spending on that audience. So what does the farmer understand? He understands what's happening in his bank account. Most people are focusing on ROAS. That is one way for Facebook to report things to you, but what actually matters is what happens in your bank account. He understands customer value. That's important because he's planning for the long term and he understands compound interest. Using that, he can use a metric that is very strong that I love. You can look this up on Google. It's called profitable scaling margin. It is your lifetime value as a numerator divided by your cost per acquisition, your cost of goods sold, essentially how much you're spending to acquire that customer times average your purchases. And then he can use that number then to reinvest those profits. If he knows those people are coming back in 90 days, he can start spending right now, knowing that in 90 days, he's going to see some more money hit his bank account. And what does that compound interest look like? 5% more a month. This is crazy. 5% more a month spend will be 80% over the course of the year. 5% more a week, you will 10x your revenue over the year. And if he adds 1% more a day, which is reasonable depending on how much your ad spend is currently to do, he can 380x total revenue, which is absolutely wild. That's the power of compound interest. So those are the three principles that I learned from our clients that are succeeding in Facebook and why they're getting predictable results. First, understand Facebook's business model and you're connecting the offer as quickly as you can to the audience. Second, be a farmer, not a hunter. Be patient, know the things that are actually moving the needle, and don't chase every creative fad. And last, nail campaign economics. Know how this is actually hitting your bank account. Don't be confused by ROAS being the number one thing. That's how Facebook reports success. That's not success in your bank account. And use the power of compound interest. So those are the three principles. Now I'm going to give you guys the structure, the campaign that will facilitate those principles so you can have an unshakable Facebook ads campaign. So the first piece of this is mastering the economics. And there's 3 steps. Calculate your LTV, know the percentage return and how frequently they come back. So if it's 30 days, if it's 60, if it's 90, and all you got to do is go to your customer database to do this and look at the average frequency in total. That will give you profitable scaling margin. And then just a heads up, if your average order value is greater than $100, you can do a leads campaign. But if it's under $100, you want to do a sales campaign because it's not worth paying that CPA twice to retarget those people and bring them into your funnel. And most retailers are at that level where it's under $100 average order value. How do you structure your campaign? This is the meat of this webinar. So you want one campaign per product line or objective. So if you're a shoe brand, you don't want to have 2 campaigns for 2 different shoes. You're going to be competing on those campaigns. You're competing with yourself. So one campaign per product line or objective. The second piece of this is you want to use Facebook's Advantage Plus campaign budget optimization. So select that. And the reason is because of how we are going to align our ad sets. We need to redistribute our dollars correctly within that. So you can put your ad sets in the form of 1 warm ad set and then 2 to 4 cold ad sets. So think of ad sets as an audience. These are different audiences that you are targeting. Why would you have a warm ad set, meaning a retargeting ad set, along with cold ad sets? Why are you putting them in the same place? Well, because most people do their retargeting in a separate campaign and they end up overspending on those people because Facebook recognizes it's a strong audience as it should. Your retargeting audiences are always going to be stronger. If we do this, we're going to put cold ad sets in there. We're not risking fatiguing our audiences, which is essentially killing the golden goose. And that's what a hunter would do, is get the big win. We want wins over time. We don't want to fatigue our audience. And by hitting campaign plus budget optimization, you're distributing your dollars correctly within these. I like to do 2 to 3 cold ad sets. You can do up to 4. And then the next layer of this is your actual ad. And what I like to do here is keep it simple, is put 3 different types of ads here that are consistent across all of these. So you're only using 3 ads. The first one would be a video. Second one could be a image ad. Maybe the third is a carousel ad. That's totally up to you. What I have seen people do that works really well here is either look at their Facebook or Instagram posts that have gotten a lot of engagements and turned those into an ad, or looked at their competitors' Facebook or Instagram posts or headlines and turned those into an ad. So that's an idea for you there. Just a little bit more specifics here. Campaign, remember, one offer, one objective. Campaign advantage plus campaign budget optimization, and use your farmer economics. At the ad set, you want one warm audience, 2 to 4 cold audiences. Those could come from interest, behaviors, lookalikes, or demos. And you want these to be fairly broad because you want to be able to grow within that group and not fatigue the audience. Too broad, and then you're just hitting too many people and you're not getting the right match. But you want that sweet spot, the green in the middle. And then lastly, your ads. Remember, 3 types of creatives. You can do a 3-2-2 if you want to look that up. It's not part of this. We're talking about structure here, but 3-2-2 is a way of doing specific creatives and knowing what are actually moving forward. And then in the end, this is what it will look like. I did this, and we have a template for how to do this. But in the end, you're going to have one singular campaign. You're going to have a few different audiences. So I got my retargeting, and I got 2 different cold audiences. And across them, I have a carousel, a video, and an image. So this is the end structure of what that will look like. Now, it's what you do with that structure that is important. So once you activate that campaign, you want to, after 2 weeks, you want to assess the performance of each one of your ads as it connects to your audience. You also want to assess the performance of each one of your audiences. The next step is you want to axe. You want to remove the ads that are just not performing and either replace them or just take them out. And you want to remove the audiences that are not performing and either replace them with a new audience or totally remove the audience till you get your campaign into a place where you are happy with it. Because of the dynamic structure that we have created, essentially separating these things out, we will know what's actually moving the needle and can smartly invest compounding interest into these and grow them and scale them sustainably over time such that we are getting predictable results. And that's the last piece, is once you've chosen how much you want to compound this, depending on your profit margin, in this case, we had 13% profit margin, we can choose to do 1 to 5% compounding budget into these ad sets that we know they're performing well and they are very engaging with that particular audience. So just to recap that, you're going to spend less time, less effort, less expense on creative because you're setting it once and you're letting it run. The second thing is you're going to know what is working, which creative is working, and why, which audience is it working with. 2, you're going to match your creative to your audience, your offer to your audience quicker. 4th, you're going to leverage compound interest in Facebook's machine learning algorithm. And 4th, or 5th, you will no longer be constantly starting over. And if you want a step-by-step tutorial of this and how I set that up in Facebook, go ahead and email Jimmy@Spatial.ai. I'm going to let you guys take a screenshot of that or capture that, Jimmy@Spatial.ai, and he will hook you up with a step-by-step template and video for how to do this. Okay, so what is a way that Personaliz can speed up this process? How can you choose a Facebook audience that will work for you? How do you assess the dollar value of each one of those Facebook audiences? Can you create a better offer and get engagement and convert? And how can you quickly learn and adapt for what is actually working? Let me show you how Personaliz can speed this process up. So this is the Personaliz platform, is a segmentation of US households. And we segment households based on 3 factors. Where they fall on social media, where their retail devices go, and their demographic attributes. So you know how they interact with your brand, but we know how they interact outside of that. Okay, so the way that you would do this is all you have to do is go to append, and you want to upload your customer list. And we're going to segment each one of those customers and identify who are your best customer sets so that you can target them. So I've got anonymous donation data set. It's dummy data. So this is what it would look like: first name, last name, address, email, and then importantly, how much they donated, how frequently they came back. So I'm going to add that It's going to match my list. And I am going to indicate that this is how much they donated. And that will give me my lifetime value that we will automatically do. The donations is frequency. And they have, did they come to this black tie event? And then you just select the market base and push this through. Now, I've already done that. So now I can analyze by going to customers, my top audiences, by going to that. And then I can see my top audiences. 16% of these people bought from the educated urbanite segment. We can see the age ranges, income ranges, etc., of all of our customers. So now we know the audiences to focus on, but not only that, we immediately know the value of these audiences by going down to seeing how much they've donated, because all we did is average all of donations across all the people that were matched. In this case, 98 people were matched at the young professional segment. They donate $189 on average versus the average person is donating $91. These people spend twice as much donating. So we know their lifetime value is higher, and we might want to consider that. The next piece is, how do you connect the offer with those people? So you just click in to that particular segment. There's lots that you can learn about a segment. We're just going to focus on Personaliz. So we see a one-page handoff that we can give to a creative that they can then go design creative based on these people's interests, behaviors, and attitudes. So you can see the lifestyle imagery that resonates with them, their key traits, their interests, the brands they follow, and the campaigns that have performed well with them. And in the case of this nonprofit, you would want to target a young professional very different than you would want to target a sunset boomer. That way you can immediately connect the right offer with the right audience. And then all we have to do is, boom, activate our campaigns. Once we have activated that campaign, it's going to push us into any platform we want. So if we want Meta, we're just going to be able to target those folks within Meta. If we want TikTok, the direct targeting on geography, you can do that as well. So that's the activation component. And the last piece is the checking to see which audiences are performing well in real time. And then we can use our adapt tool to do that, which watches the performance of these audiences in real time, the click-through rate, the cost per click. And then you can also capture the LTV of these audiences by hitting add metrics, selecting your list. And then all we need to do is see how much these people donated. And we can see that young professionals donate $160 on average here, along with the G. And then you can see the click-through rate on that audience and the cost per click. And then we can just cut our audiences that have the lowest click-through rate. In this case, it'd be the E, F, and Q segments, and take that money and put it into audiences that are performing well. And that is the full process of how Personaliz can speed up that process. We don't have a lot of time to go through case studies, but AAA is using this really well for personalization. We've got a company called Sequest that has used this for creating the correct offers. And then another company that is using this as an agency that uses this for cutting down the CPA on each one of these. And we can share these case studies with you.